Well, thank you for being here. We're really excited to have you here. And so welcome to our celebration and our implementation kickoff event for the Citywide Energy Action Plan. As many of you in the room probably already know, but some of you might not, there is a history of environmental stewardship in the city of St. Louis Park that goes back quite a ways. And I'd like to share a little bit about that before talking about the energy plan that we're here to celebrate and start implementing tonight. So. The City of St. Louis Park, like many other communities, embark on community-wide visioning processes prior to their 10-year comprehensive planning process. And so this is a chance to get a deep dive into the community and find out what else should be in that comprehensive plan other than what's required by statute. And so in the last two cycles of community visioning, environmental stewardship or information and concern for the environment bubble to the top both in those last two cycles. And in the most recent cycle that was completed in 2006, there was a statement that came out, several statements that came out of that visioning process, and one of them was about environmental stewardship, and I'll just read you that statement. St. Louis Park is committed to being a leader in environmental stewardship, and we will increase environmental consciousness and responsibility in all areas of city business. So that came out in a 2007 visioning summary where there were some other statements about what kind of bubbled to the top in the community and what was interesting and what were the values that the community were interested in making sure that that council and the city continued to pursue. So because of this strong support on this topic, there became interest by many residents to form either a board or commission that would be focusing on environmental issues and help guide or advise the city on what to do and what to focus on. So the city staff worked with several residents who were interested and created a task force to develop what the group might look like, how it might operate, and what its role might be. And so over a couple of years of working through that, the Environment and Sustainability Commission was formed, and it's also known as Sustainable SLP. So that's the other name for that commission. It's their branding. So the Sustainable SLP started officially in June of 2013 to get working. So fortunately, that's kind of what led us to why we're here tonight. But there's a little bit more background that went into a lot of work before we got to the plan that we have. So there's a lot of initiatives that the Sustainable SLP or our commission has worked on. And this, because of them, that's why we're here today. So when that group was first formed and they were first getting their efforts underway, they formed work groups. And one of those work groups was a focus on energy. So some of the members of that energy work group wanted to figure out how can we best help the city and the community move forward in a more sustainable way with regards to energy use. So either reducing it, renewables, whatever it might be. And the idea came up that maybe we should be a Partners in Energy city. And Partners in Energy is a program offered by Xcel Energy, which is our electrical utility here. And so there were lots of background work that went into this. And so there were members of this commission who had to do things like go through the different channels to get approval to apply for the program, and what would it look like? Is the city going to support that? Then to cold calling residents, businesses, and other organizations to see if they would be on board and helping write such a plan for the community. So there are lots of hard work behind the scenes before I ever came here, and before even some of our newer commissioners didn't even hear this story maybe from the beginning. So thanks to all that hard work, a team was created. I think that's most of the members who showed up for the workshops. So this was our core group that started meeting to develop the actual plan. So between August of 2015 and February of 2016, we had 5 workshops in the evenings where these group of people came together and fleshed out the vision, the strategies, the goals, all the ideas behind what would be in this plan and why, and how they might embark upon completing those action items that were identified. So it took a long time. So prior to even getting to the workshops to develop the plan, there was a lot of behind the scenes work. And then we got to having the group and the workshops, and throughout the workshops came this plan that will be you'll be getting to explore more and help support implementing the strategies in. So this is a good summary of what's in the plan. There is a great history. It's actually a really good read. It's got really fun history, great facts, and a lot of data in there too. So it's mixed in there really nicely, and it tells a good story. And we have a few hard copies of it left, but we also have this available online on the Sustainable SLP webpage from the city's website. This is the vision statement, and I'm not going to read it to you, but while you're looking at that, I'd just like to say that I think that local government is really in a unique position to make change in the world, especially in this area. When we have federal and state government that moves too slow or can't meet the needs and the demands of all the different stakeholders, we're uniquely positioned to make change here at local government level. And so I think this is actually possible when you have that kind of community support and people ready to roll up their sleeves and realize that they can make a difference, even if it's just under the control within the boundaries of their own city. So that's what I think is kind of the key to all of this really working. And as you look at the plan later on, or while you break into groups, you'll see that there are 4 strategies that were developed as an outcome of this plan. So we have energy efficiency in businesses, and that can also be for residential and on a smaller scale. Renewable energy, so looking at renewable energy for both commercial and industrial as well as residents, and city operations, of course. And then climate action planning, and we're embarking on that right now. We're working on getting our greenhouse gas inventory done for city operations. We already have the citywide data mostly completed. And then partnership with youth, and that's really a theme throughout this entire plan. It's not really a standalone strategy, but we really want that partnership to stay strong. We're talking about the future, and it's their future. So we're talking about the youth's future. So we really wanted their voice and their input. And so we partnered with them to work on various aspects, and we hope to see more work from the youth in implementation of the plan. But we worked with some of the high school students at the senior high school, and they helped get the city council to be a little more aware about climate action planning, and they drafted a climate inheritance resolution and presented that in front of council, which was really impressive and was really well received. So that's why we're really pushing hard on that climate action plan right now. So what I didn't say was my name. So I'm so used to so many faces in the audience, I forgot to say that I'm Shannon Pintz, and I'm lucky enough to be the sustainability coordinator for the city and work with this commission on all these kinds of efforts. So I'm the one who's fortunate enough to get to do all the work that came from this great group of people and all these wonderful ideas that came from them. So with that, I would like to ask the chair of the commission, Francie Abramson, to come up and tell you a little bit more about the Commission's work plan for 2017 and how it ties into these efforts. Thanks, Francie.
Thanks, Shannon, and thank you, Emma, for helping coordinate today, and all of our partners at Excel, and really thank all of you. As Shannon mentioned, I'm Francie. I'm the current chair of the Commission, and I have been actually learning alongside all of you tonight because I'm also a relatively new member of the Commission, and so I know I'm really excited to get into some of the nitty-gritty details of all of this work and really see it come to life. And without your support, I know it wouldn't be possible. So thank you all for being here tonight with us to kick off. Yeah, as Shannon mentioned, and in great detail, we have this as our top priority within our commission charter and work plan for this future year and many years to come. And we have it broken down into these focus areas. So this is not new. This is many, many months and years in the making, but we're really prioritizing it among other policy development and recommendations that we'll be working on throughout 2017. There's more detail in here than you can probably read, and I didn't mean for it to be an eye chart, but I do just want to draw your attention to the fact that we have these really high-level goals. For energy efficiency in business, we want to drive the top 100 largest and encourage 200 small and medium-sized businesses to take action here. We know that's really big numbers, and we have our work cut out for us, but we know that's what it will take to get this work done. So for renewable energy, as Shannon mentioned, this is cut across all types of sectors, really focusing on wind and solar, and we have some of these metrics that we'll be able to track against. So as we make progress, we hope to really see these numbers shoot up and reach these goals through some of the recommendations that we make to council or to other residents and other members of the community. Also, we want to think about climate action plan. As you know, this is a much longer term endeavor for thinking about our climate for many, many years in our future. And so when we think about those goals as carbon neutrality by 2040 and then sourcing 100% renewable electricity by 2025, we need to really lay a groundwork for those goals in this next year and through some of these shorter term endeavors as we go. Then last, I'll just nod to the youth involvement. As Shannon so eloquently mentioned, this is really where we hope to see a lot of involvement from the community. So please encourage any members of your families, your friends, your networks within SLP who are younger and who are interested, whether it's through iMatter or other topics, to get involved. We'd love to hear their perspective. We have a youth member on the commission, so she is a wonderful asset and resource to us. We'll continue to leverage her expertise and knowledge in that vein, and we'll hope to get even more input from the rest of the community as well. And again, I just want to reiterate my thanks to all of you for being here. I know the commission is small but mighty, and we really will depend on all of your volunteer time and effort and energy and expertise to help us move this work forward. Please stay involved with us. Please offer your insights, your input, and thank you again for being here, and I'll turn it back over to Shannon.
Thanks, Francie. And I also want to give a shout out to Xcel Energy. Thank you for your program and your support throughout this. We probably couldn't have created this plan without your program, and so we do have quite a few representatives from Xcel Energy here that you can talk to after the program's over. We've got a couple of people who worked on this up until this point, so people who have been working on the plan up until today, in some cases, are here to talk about the journey, a little bit about what they experienced and what their participation was. And so I'm going to name them all now and then let them just get up one by one. So I'm just going to introduce them all at once. So we've got Ryan Griffin, who is our vice chair of the commission. Raise your hand, maybe. Okay. Micah Vinica. He's a pre-construction manager at Knutson Construction. Christopher Liedman. Where'd you go? There he is. Senior operations manager at Park Nicollet. And Tammy Gunderzik. I don't know how I messed that up. And she's the Xcel Energy Partners and Energy Program Manager. So we're grateful to have all four of you here. And Ryan, I think you're supposed to be first.
All right, I am Ryan Griffin, for anyone who doesn't know me, and yeah, I also wanted to just get another show of the hands of everyone who's been involved in either the Sustainability Commission or the Partners in Energy Group, or has participated in a sustainable SLP event like Bike the Park, or is just a resident that has a particular concern for the environment in St. Louis Park. Okay. Hopefully that's just about all of us. So, as I was asked to get up and talk about the history, I realized there's a lot of people in the audience who have a lot more history than I do in St. Louis Park, and I want to thank you for coming out on this frigid night to talk about climate change and things like that. So, but basically the history when I started, I've been on the Sustainable SLP group for just over 2 years now. When I started, actually, Cindy Larson O'Neill was the Energy Work Group chair. So if you really want to know the history on where the Energy Work Group came from, it's sitting right here. And we owe a lot of thanks to you for helping get all this set up. But when I started, I think we had a lot of irons in the fire from an energy standpoint. But the big elephant in the room was the huge threat that is climate change that we're all facing. it really just is one small part of the overall mission of sustainable SLP. Energy, we have water, we have engaging people, we have all these areas, but to me the most pressing threat is the threat of climate change. And that was what pushed us to think about the need to consider our own greenhouse gas emissions in the city. And we had some excellent resources such as regional indicators that allowed us to compare ourselves to other communities in the metro area. And that's how we found out about Partners in Energy, and really thankful for Excel to come along and help us take what we knew was a major problem and put some resources to helping us try to solve it. So I don't know if everyone's aware or if it even really makes sense, but we found that for every citizen, man, woman, and child in St. Louis Park, we're all responsible for about 21 tons of carbon dioxide emissions every year. And what some leading research organizations have said is across the world we need to get to about 2 tons of carbon dioxide on average per capita for the world. So what that tells us is we're about 10 times over where we need to be. And we're one of the better, we're probably one of the better, or at least in the middle of the pack as an American city. So if we can't make change here, who can? And that was really sort of one of the pressing needs when we ask ourselves, why are we focusing so much on climate? Well, it is such an urgent issue for us. So the initial phase of Partners in Energy was to get together a lot of the people you see in this room, a lot of business leaders, community leaders, and try to get some ideas on what could we do differently, what data do we need to look at, how can we actually start driving change faster than we're seeing at a federal level, at a state level, regional level. How can we actually take on some accountability and catalyze change ourselves. And so I think that's why we're here. We are in a position where we've got some great ideas, things such as becoming a carbon neutral city by 2040. I mean, that's an amazingly aggressive goal, but it's all talk without people like you who are actually willing to roll up your sleeves, come out on a cold night and help us figure out ways to make that a reality. So, I think it's important to note that we strategically chose electricity as the area to focus first. Number one, because we have a great and willing partner in Excel. Number two, because it's about a third of our overall greenhouse gas emissions for St. Louis Park. It's pretty much tied with vehicle emissions, and it's ahead of, both of those are ahead of natural gas emissions in our homes. We also found that 70% of our emissions come from business, so that's why we took a business-centric focus, because we realized we've got 45,000 people that we could convince to, switch to renewable energy or do efficiency, which we still should, but we have a much smaller group of businesses that have a much greater impact, that if we got some of them on board as willing partners and showed that we can work together and have mutually beneficial solutions to reduce our footprint, we'll be able to make progress faster and go farther than we could, just having this on the individual level. So, and I also, Jane isn't here anymore, she had to leave early, but really want to thank the effort of iMatter and the Roots and Shoots group to bring forth the Climate Inheritance Resolution. And if you don't know what that is, they came and sat in a city council meeting and delivered a resolution to the city of St. Louis Park along with a report card that said, hey, we're not doing all that well on climate. We've got a lot of room for improvement. We're doing some things pretty well. But we all need to work together, and we need to come up with a climate action plan. So a climate action plan is a central part of this. The energy and efficiency plan that you heard is a central part, and then the renewable energy. They all work together, but I'm really pleased to say that we now have, the city has put forth an RFP, and we've got I believe, a deal signed with Great Plains Institute to draft our first climate action plan for the city of St. Louis Park that we're going to see here within the next 6 months. So really awesome that our work together has already paid off. We've already got some things moving forward there. But we've got a long way to go, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you to make this happen. So thanks again for coming out.
Hi there, I'm Micah. I'm a resident of St. Louis Park and I work at Knutson Construction. We're also in St. Louis Park, have been for about 30 years. We're off the corner of 394 in Louisiana. We're the building with the questionable holiday lights right now. So we're a general contractor that's been around over 100 years. We build and remodel all sorts of buildings. Anything from schools, water treatment plants, office buildings like our own, or healthcare projects like the Cancer Center at Park Nicollet, things like that. So we've been around a long time. We like St. Louis Park. We're here to stay, and we just want to be part of the vision for the future and just be a little small part of the improvement. So I personally attended the workshops just to be part of the solution, like I said. And we know that there's scientists and architects and designers and all these smart people and just residents that are concerned, that are doing everything they can to make this possible. Knutson, we're builders. We just build stuff, and that's the part where we can offer some expertise. So we just try to come in, maybe offer a few suggestions, things like that, and just want to be there to help. So if there's people looking at improvements to their buildings, replacing windows or LED lights or things like that, that's where we can help. It's not scary or unknown to us. So that's the type of thing that we can pitch in on. So my involvement in the workshop was mostly in the energy efficiency in business. I get mostly, again, because of our expertise, but also, like Ryan mentioned, that's where a lot of low-hanging fruit is. You think you can make big strides in those businesses, especially those big businesses that are, the largest users or biggest offenders, you could say. So this energy action plan was needed to lay out a plan and organize thoughts around so we all can push our efforts in the same direction. And we know that there's still a lot of work to be done, and this will just help assign tasks going forward. So it's exciting to be a small part of this little groundswell activity, and it'll surely continue to gain momentum. And I encourage anyone else to come out and help and keep pushing this thing forward. So I'd like to give a quick hat tip or stick tap, like hockey players say, to the city and Xcel Energy for pushing this progress. Thanks.
Chris Liedman, I'm the operations manager at Park Nicollet. I have been there about 3.5 years. Very much enjoy being a part of delivering healthcare and being part of community health. It's one of our the missions at Park Nicollet is community health, and of course the obvious way we do that is providing primary through tertiary medical care. But one of the things we also like to focus on is the greater community health. So yes, day to day our primary objective is caring for patients, but participating in this group has been a lot of fun to embrace beyond just the simple practices of healthcare and so on. When I joined the group, of course, maybe nobody knew what to expect, but as we were brainstorming on what we were going to go after, one of my ideas was renewable energy, and as operations manager at Park Nicollet, the energy efficiency for business, well, that's me, that's my background, that's where I come from, that's where my previous lives were in my career, and that's important, and there's huge opportunity there. But at the same time, as I look around some of the goals I'm trying to achieve for community health and reducing emissions and things like that, I'm looking at renewable energy, and being a nonprofit, unfortunately, that's a very uphill battle for us because we can't take advantage of some of the incentives and so on. So I went after it as part of this group and said, look, I think there's some critical mass here coming in renewable energy. I think there's lots of great things to do. I was voted out. My idea was voted out, and I stood up and said, no, I want us to do this because I think there's a lot of ability if we can tap into the St. Louis Park economy in both businesses and residents and go after renewable energy. And of course, as we looked at the goals, my original goals were this big, and we ended up with way more practical goals. So I think we can make a dent. Like Ryan was saying, we're laying foundations here, and I believe we are doing that. And that goal of 2040, it's possible, but you don't move a mountain by picking it up. You pick it up a stone at a time. In our case, so fantastic group of folks. Great vision. Great vision. Thanks for having me.
I'm Tammy Gunderzik with Excel Energy. And, you know, it's always fun to kind of come back to communities when we have meetings like this and see all the familiar faces that you've gotten to know so well through the planning. But to be able to come back tonight and see, if not, you know, just as many and more new faces as we get to this pivotal point of turning towards implementation where we really make the impact. It's hard work, it's long sitting at the table and making those plans, but this is where it really gets important and where it's really critical that we have some momentum and energy and just that passion that we've seen throughout St. Louis Park. As I mentioned, I manage Partners in Energy, and that's a program Excel put together with these objectives I get excited about. It's figuring out kind of what communities want and what the role is going to be and what products and services we can kind of bring to them with this new utility industry that's emerging with all the new technologies and the role of the community with no real meter stuck to them. Figuring out how we can take the products we have now and really deliver them better at that community level to really kind of do that customization for what St. Louis Park in your case is looking for. And then even just being that good partner in the community. And those are kind of our top three. And it's fun to go to work each day and think that's what you're doing. But then when you come in here and you find out what the focus areas are, when you talk about, you know, renewable energy by 2025 and carbon neutrality by 2040, and really think about the impact of something like that and what you're achieving as you drive towards those goals, that's even more exciting at a whole new level, because that's a serious thing. I mean, there's always a debate about greenhouse gas and everything else, but you know, the reality is it's a threat that's out there, and it's the incremental actions of the different community groups like you coming together and, you know, not even by your actions lowering those greenhouse gas emissions, but even the awareness that you're raising and the activities that you're doing and what that's saying to the other communities around you. That's great. We're excited to be a partner, not only through planning, but as we go to implementation. And we're looking forward to see not only what you do over the next 18 months, but after that. We're hoping this is kind of the start of a long-term energy building effort here. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing all of that. It was good to hear all those different perspectives and stories on how we got to this point. So lastly, I'd like to introduce Emma Struss. She's our community facilitator for our Partners in Energy journey, and she will explain what you can expect with the remainder of tonight's program. So Emma?
The plan's done, the fun begins. Okay, so now that we've learned a little bit about the plan, you all have an opportunity to make a difference in your community. We'll be moving over to their 3 tables set up representing 3 of the focus areas. So you'll see renewable energy, we have energy efficiency in business, and then climate action plan. Before you sit down, please grab cake or refreshments. That's an important part to stay fueled. So commission members will be at each table, and you'll see a series of questions. And the real objective of tonight is to get acquainted with the people who are passionate and wanting to take action in your community around each of these topics. So you'll be exchanging contact information, talking about the next few steps that you want to take in the following month, and then start scheduling times to meet and really move things forward. So it's an exciting night of action. We've sat long enough, and so each group will go as long as your group needs. Please assign one person to take notes. You'll see that there's a folder with notes and spaces to write things down from the conversations that you have. There is a blue folder up here. Before you leave, if you could put the contact information for your group and then also the notes that you take in here, I'll write them up for you and distribute them so you're able to contact one another after tonight. And with that, get in your groups that interest you and take some snacks. And this is the formal end of us all together, but go as long as you need till 8:30 to really kick things off. And thank you for being here tonight.